Captain Jace Mallory had never been a man who sought trouble. A retired human soldier, he preferred quiet missions, small contracts, and long nights staring at the stars. But the galaxy rarely gave humans the peace they sought. This time Jace found himself on Virelia, a planet famous for its glittering oceans, floating cities, and a royal family whose power reached across nearby star systems. He was hired for a simple job: provide security for a diplomatic mission involving the alien royal family. Simple, he thought, straightforward. But humans had a way of being thrown into impossible situations. Jace stepped off the starship onto the shimmering platform of Virelia's central spaceport. The air smelled faintly metallic and sweet, the signature scent of the planet's floating gardens. Aliens of every shape and color bustled around him. Some had scales, some had feathers, some had no recognizable limbs at all. Jace had seen strange things before, but Virelia's citizens were in a league of their own. A message chimed in his communicator. "Captain Mallory, the princess is en route. Prepare the security perimeter." He nodded, adjusting his body armor and checking his blaster. Humans were known for their bravery, but sometimes that bravery landed them in the wrong kind of trouble. Jace had learned that the hard way. Within minutes, a convoy of hovering carriages approached the platform. At the center rode Princess Lyris, the young heir of Virelia. Her skin glowed faintly, an ethereal blue that shimmered even under the portlights. Her eyes were large, silver, and intelligent, scanning the crowd with curiosity. Even from a distance, Jace could see her hands were delicate. But there was a quiet strength in her posture, a grace that spoke of hidden power. Jace moved closer, taking position near the carriage. He could feel the eyes of alien spectators on him, some suspicious, some impressed. Humans were rare on Virelia, and they carried a reputation of reckless courage. Jace didn't care. His job was simple: keep the princess alive. And then, as if the universe had been waiting for the perfect moment to test him, the attack began. From the shadows above the platform, space pirates dropped in. Dark ships, small and fast, swooped around the landing area, firing plasma bursts. Panic erupted instantly. Aliens screamed, rushing in all directions, their elegant forms stumbling in fear. Jace didn't hesitate. A plasma bolt streaked toward the carriage. Reflexively, Jace dove, pushing Princess Lyris out of the way. The bolt struck his shoulder, sending him sprawling to the ground. Pain shot through his body, but he gritted his teeth and turned to face the attackers. "Stay down," he shouted, firing his blaster with precision. Each shot found its mark, disabling at least 2 drones before another wave of bolts rained down. Jace felt the heat on his back, the rush of danger like nothing he had experienced in years. But he had a mission: protect the princess. Princess Lyris scrambled from the carriage, her eyes wide as she watched him fight. Despite her fear, she felt something she had never expected. Humans were bold, fearless, and unpredictable. Jace didn't just fight, he calculated, adapted, and survived in ways aliens rarely did. One pirate ship swooped lower, its pilot aiming directly at the princess. Without thinking, Jace threw himself between her and the incoming blast. Pain exploded across his chest as the plasma bolt hit him squarely. Blood seeped through his armor, a vivid red against the metallic blue of his uniform. The princess cried out, rushing to his side. "No, stop!" Jace waved her back weakly. "Move, now!" he gasped. Pain twisted his vision, but he still managed to fire a few more shots. One of the pirates' ships spiraled out of control, crashing into the port with a deafening explosion. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the attack ended. The remaining pirate ships retreated, leaving smoke, fire, and chaos in their wake. Jace lay on the ground, gasping for air. His blood stained the platform, but the princess was safe, alive. That was all that mattered. Princess Lyris knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she pressed against his wounds. Why did you do this?" she asked, her voice soft but filled with awe. Jace smiled weakly, his teeth gritted against the pain. Someone had to. That's what humans do. Her eyes widened. She had heard tales of human bravery, of legendary heroes who risked everything for others, but seeing it firsthand, it was something else entirely. Before she could respond further, a regal presence entered the platform. Queen Regina Virelia, the ruler of the planet and mother of the princess, descended from her hovering throne. Her eyes were sharp, calculating, and unyielding. She looked at Jace, and for the first time, the human felt the full weight of her gaze. "You saved her." the Queen said, her voice cold yet commanding. "And yet you are still breathing." A curious thing. Jace struggled to rise, but the pain forced him to remain seated. "Yes, Your Majesty. I did what anyone would. Anyone human would do." The Queen studied him silently. Around them the alien crowd murmured. Some whispered admiration, some disbelief, others suspicion. Humans were rare and their ways were strange. But the Queen's eyes were not on them, she was on him. "Captain Mallory," she said finally, "your actions have not gone unnoticed. You have spilled your blood for my daughter, and that alone earns respect. But as it also binds you to this palace." Jace blinked. "Binds me? I was just doing my job, Your Majesty." The Queen raised a hand. A wave of subtle energy pulsed through the air, part ritual, part command. "You will remain under my observation until I decide your fate. Whether that will be freedom or something else remains to be seen." Princess Lyris looked at her mother, then at Jace, confusion and concern on her face. "Mother, please." "He saved my life. He doesn't belong in confinement." The Queen's gaze softened slightly as she looked at her daughter, then hardened again. "His place is here for now. Let us see what a human's courage and loyalty are truly worth." Jace clenched his fists. He had faced countless enemies, seen friends die, survived impossible odds. But never had he been put in a position like this. Trapped by gratitude, bound by honor, evaluated by alien eyes that could see far beyond human understanding. He had saved a life. That life was the princess, and now the fate of a human would be decided by an alien queen. As the sun of Virelia dipped below the floating city, casting long shadows across the platform, Jace felt a strange mixture of pride, fear, and determination. He had acted out of instinct. He had risked everything, and he had survived, but survival was only the beginning. And on Virelia, where humans were rare and bravery was misunderstood, action spoke louder than words, and the universe was watching. The Queen's final words echoed in his mind as he was escorted into the palace. "Let us see, Captain Mallory, what a human truly offers to the galaxy." Jace had no answer yet, but one thing was certain. Wherever this path led, he would not falter. Captain Jace Mallory awoke to the soft hum of the palace's energy systems. His head throbbed and his shoulder burned with a dull, constant pain. The last battle still ran vividly in his mind. The pirates, the plasma bolts, and the moment he had thrown himself between death and Princess Lyris. He tried to sit up, but the pain forced him back onto the soft alien mattress. The room was unlike any human bedroom he had ever seen. The walls shimmered faintly like liquid metal, and faint golden lights traced elegant patterns across the ceiling. A door slid open silently, and 2 palace attendants entered. "You are awake, Captain Mallory," one said. The voice was smooth, melodic, yet carried a subtle authority that humans rarely commanded. "Your injuries are stabilizing. The Queen requests your presence in the council chamber." Jace gritted his teeth. He had survived countless battles, but being summoned by an alien queen, alive and in one piece, felt far more dangerous. He nodded slowly. "Understood," he said, swinging his legs over the edge of the bed. By the time he arrived in the Grand Council chamber, Princess Lyris was already there, pacing lightly on her delicate feet. She turned when she saw him, her silver eyes wide with curiosity and relief. "Captain," she whispered. "You look worse than you feel, I hope." Jace gave a faint grin. "Pain is nothing new. I've had worse." The chamber was vast, with high ceilings that arched into intricate patterns. Alien advisors stood around the room, their forms both beautiful and strange. Some had multiple limbs. Others had translucent skin that revealed their internal structures. All of them stared at him with a mix of suspicion and fascination. At the center of it all sat Queen Regina, her regal form towering even in her seated position. Her eyes were sharp, as if she could read every thought in Jace's mind. She regarded him silently for a moment, then spoke. "Captain Mallory," she said, her voice calm but commanding, "you have saved my daughter's life. That is a deed not to be forgotten. Yet saving her was only the beginning of your journey. Here, actions matter more than words. And humans are unpredictable." Jace swallowed hard. "I don't need rewards, Your Majesty. I only want to protect the princess." The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly. "Protection is not enough. Loyalty must be proven. Courage alone does not suffice." She gestured to one of the advisors. "Prepare the first test. Before Jace could react, the chamber transformed. The walls shifted, displaying holographic simulations of alien landscapes. Sounds of battle, diplomatic disputes, and strange wildlife filled the room. Jace realized this was no ordinary test. This was a simulation designed to measure his instincts, intelligence, and adaptability. A holographic projection of Princess Lyris appeared, calling out for help. A wave of alien warriors advanced, blocking every exit. Jace instinctively readied his blaster. But he quickly realized something. The enemies in this simulation moved in patterns that no human had ever seen in real combat. Their movements were fluid, unnatural, and perfectly synchronized. He studied the patterns, remembered his training, and noticed the gaps. Using speed and precision, he darted through the holographic enemies, protecting the projection of Lyris. At every turn, he anticipated their moves, adjusting his strategy like a seasoned human soldier. Finally, after what felt like hours but was only minutes, he reached the projection of the princess and neutralized the last of the holographic enemies. The simulation ended instantly. The chamber returned to its original state and silence fell. The queen's eyes were unreadable. Then finally she spoke. Impressive. You do not follow orders blindly. You think, you adapt, you survive, yet this is only the beginning. Jace nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. I will do whatever is necessary. Princess Lyris smiled softly. You are extraordinary, Captain. Humans are not supposed to be this clever in alien ways. Before Jace could respond, another advisor stepped forward, presenting a small device. The Queen spoke again. Your next test is of diplomacy. You will negotiate with a group of alien merchants. Their dispute threatens trade routes critical to our planet. Resolve it without bloodshed. Jace raised an eyebrow. Diplomacy, huh? I'm more used to combat than contracts. The Queen's expression was stern. Humans often rely on force. Let us see if you can rely on your mind. He entered a smaller chamber where 3 alien merchants argued heatedly. Their voices were high-pitched, overlapping, and impossible to understand at first. But Jace quickly recognized patterns in their speech, subtle gestures, and their body language. He began to translate their complaints in his mind. One merchant accused another of cheating. The third threatened to leave the planet entirely. Using calm words, clear gestures, and careful reasoning, Jace mediated the conflict. He proposed compromises that respected their traditions, balanced fairness, and showed strategic thinking that humans often excel at. Slowly, the merchants calmed, nodding in agreement. By the end, they shook hands, or whatever the alien equivalent of shaking hands was, and agreed to continue trading peacefully. Back in the council chamber, the Queen observed silently, her arms folded. Humans are stubborn, she said finally, almost to herself. Yet you are not just stubborn, you are clever. Princess Lyris leaned closer to Jace, whispering, You're proving yourself more than anyone could imagine. Even the Queen seems impressed. Jace shook his head. I'm just trying to survive her tests. The next challenge was physical. The palace's elite guards, formidable warriors trained from birth, faced Jace in a controlled sparring exercise. Aliens moved in ways humans could not predict. Their limbs were longer, faster, and their reflexes were unnerving. But Jace relied on his human instincts, quick thinking, and creativity. He ducked, rolled, and countered in ways the aliens had never encountered. Time and again he outsmarted his opponents, not by brute strength, but by using ingenuity. The Queen watched intently as he adapted to their alien fighting style, turning their advantages into weaknesses. Finally, after hours of grueling training, Jace collapsed onto the soft floor, sweat dripping from his brow. The Queen's voice rang out, calm but with approval. You survive where others would fail. You fight where others would flee. Yet your loyalty is still untested outside the palace walls. Jace breathed heavily. Then I will continue to prove it. Whatever you ask. Princess Lyris stepped closer, her expression serious. You've already proven so much, Captain. But the Queen's ways are different. She will not release you until she is certain that humans like you are more than savages with blasters. Jace chuckled weakly. I don't care if she releases me or not. My job is to protect you. That's enough. Over the next few days, Jace continued his trials. He learned alien history, customs, and strategy. He observed the Queen's advisors, noting their weaknesses and ambitions. He began to understand the subtle politics of the Varelian court, the jealousy, the hidden rivalries. the complex codes of honor that bound everyone to the throne. Through it all, Princess Lyris remained at his side, offering guidance and asking questions about human ways. In return, Jace shared stories of Earth, human courage, and the simple idea that sometimes survival depended on thinking differently. The palace began to change. Guards who once treated him as a curiosity now respected him. Advisors who doubted humans began to listen. And the Queen, silent, calculating, ever watchful, began to regard him not as a foreign mercenary, but as a force to be reckoned with. One evening, as the twin suns of Virelia set, casting gold and silver light across the palace halls, the Queen called Jace into her private chambers. She sat in her throne, her posture elegant, her eyes unreadable. "You have done well, Captain Mallory," she said slowly. "Better than I expected. You survived tests designed to challenge the greatest of our warriors and minds. Yet, you still bleed like a human, and humans are fragile. Why do you continue?" Jace looked her in the eye, the pain from his wounds a dull ache in the background. "Because some things are worth it. Protecting the princess, keeping her alive, that matters more than myself." The Queen's lips pressed together in thought. "Humans are curious creatures. Your courage, your loyalty, your mind, they are unlike any I have known. Yet rules are rules. You will remain in the palace. But know this, your actions are changing more than your fate. They are changing how I see humanity." Princess Lyris stepped forward, her hand brushing lightly against Jace's. "You've done more than survive, Captain. You've earned a place here, if the Queen allows it." Jace smiled faintly, exhaustion and relief in his eyes. "Then I will wait. I've survived worse than waiting." The Queen's eyes glinted with something he could not read. Approval, curiosity, or perhaps a warning that this was only the beginning. As night fell over Virelia, the palace lights reflected in the twin oceans below. Jace lay in his quarters, staring at the ceiling. He had passed the first trials, proven his worth, and earned a measure of respect. Yet deep in his heart, he knew the universe had more tests in store. For humans were brave, clever, and persistent, but the galaxy was vast and danger never slept. The palace of Virelia was quiet that morning, but Jace Mallory could sense the tension in the air. He had survived the Queen's tests of courage, intellect, and loyalty, yet something felt off. Human instincts honed through years of war told him danger was near, even if the aliens were blind to it. Princess Lyris appeared at his side, her expression calm but serious. "You feel it too?" she asked. Her voice was soft, but it carried a note of urgency that humans and aliens alike could understand. Jace nodded. "Something is coming. I don't know what, but the palace, it doesn't feel safe." The Queen had left orders for Jace to observe the palace, interact with the guards, and continue his training. But he had long since learned that rules were guides, not absolutes. The instincts that saved him in battle demanded vigilance. As the day progressed, Jace patrolled the palace corridors. He noticed subtle signs, footsteps in areas that should have been empty, shadows that moved against the light, and doors that had been slightly tampered with. Nothing an alien would have noticed, but humans had trained to see danger in the small, almost invisible details. He entered the council chamber to report to the Queen. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing respectfully, "I believe the palace may be under threat. Someone is planning something." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "Explain." Jace outlined his observations carefully, avoiding assumptions. Footsteps in restricted areas, slight disturbances in locks, certain guards behaving strangely. It may be an internal threat or external, but someone is planning an attack. The Queen leaned back, silent for a long moment. Then she spoke, calm but commanding. "If what you say is true, Captain Mallory, you may be the only one capable of stopping it." Jace's jaw tightened. Humans thrived under impossible odds. "Then I will stop it," he said simply. He began his investigation immediately, moving quietly through the palace. Guards were polite but largely unaware. Their senses were attuned to obvious threats, not the subtle danger a human could detect. Jace's instincts guided him, noticing patterns, small mistakes, and unusual behaviors. By mid-afternoon, he discovered a hidden passage behind a tapestry in one of the palace wings. The passage led deep into the lower levels, an area rarely visited even by palace staff. It smelled faintly of smoke and oil, as if someone had been working there in secret. Jace's heart raced. "This isn't good," he muttered. They're hiding weapons. Maybe explosives, maybe worse. He followed the passage, careful to avoid triggering any security measures. At the end, he found a small group of masked intruders moving crates of alien-made weapons. They hadn't noticed him yet. Jace crouched in the shadows, studying them. They were highly trained, synchronized, and armed with weapons that could penetrate palace defenses. But they lacked human unpredictability, and that was his advantage. He quietly activated his communicator. Princess Lyris, alert the guards quietly. Don't confront them yet. A soft whisper confirmed her presence. Within moments, selected palace guards moved into position, invisible to the intruders. Jace stepped forward, his blaster ready. Stop, he shouted. The intruders spun around, surprised by the sudden human presence. One of them fired, but Jace dodged instinctively, rolling and firing back. He had faced ambushes before, but this was different. The intruders were trained for stealth, but not for the human capacity to improvise under pressure. He used the narrow corridors to his advantage, leading them into traps, using their own momentum against them. The battle was intense. Blasts echoed, shadows danced across the walls, and sparks flew from damaged weapons. Finally, he cornered the last of the intruders, who raised his hands in surrender. Jace didn't hesitate. Tie him up. Now, he ordered. The guards quickly restrained the intruders, their alien forms surprisingly cooperative under Jace's command. Within minutes, the threat had been neutralized. Jace examined the crates. Weapons designed for assassinations, explosives, and even a small ship schematics, enough to attack the palace from the skies. Princess Lyris appeared beside him, her expression a mix of relief and admiration. You saw it all, before anyone else. How did you know? Jace shook his head. Instinct, experience. Humans survive by noticing the small things that others overlook. The Queen arrived soon after, her presence as commanding as ever. She examined the scene, her eyes sharp and discerning. Captain Mallory, she said slowly, it seems the palace owes its safety to you again. Humans, perhaps you are more capable than I anticipated. Jace shrugged, the blood on his shoulder a dull reminder of past battles. I do what I can. That's all anyone can do. The Queen studied him silently. Then she spoke, softer this time. You risked your life not once but twice for my daughter. You acted without hesitation, without fear, without reward. Tell me, Captain, why? Jace looked at her, then at Princess Lyris. Because she's alive. Because she deserves a chance to live and lead. Because someone has to act when others can't. That's what humans do. The Queen's eyes glimmered with something Jace could not name. Approval, curiosity, perhaps respect. Very well. Your actions speak louder than words. Yet your place is still here, bound by honor, by duty, and by what you have done. You will remain under observation. Princess Lyris stepped forward, her hand brushing lightly against Jace's. You've saved the palace, the people, and even my life again. You are more than a protector. You are a hero. Jace shook his head. I'm no hero. I'm just a human who does what he must. But even as he spoke, he realized that humans were more than that. Humans were clever, resourceful, and brave in ways aliens could not fully understand. His actions had not only saved lives, they had changed how the Queen and her court viewed humanity. That night the palace was quiet, but the halls were filled with tension. Jace lay awake, listening to the soft hum of energy systems, the distant movement of guards, and the gentle breathing of Princess Lyris in the room next door. He thought about the future. He had passed the Queen's tests, prevented a hidden threat, and begun to earn the respect of an alien civilization. But the galaxy was vast and threats were never-ending. Humans thrived in such chaos, and Jace Mallory had only just begun. As the first twin suns rose over Veralia, casting golden light across the palace, Jace knew one thing with certainty. Humans were capable of far more than the galaxy had ever realized. The hidden threat had been neutralized, but the Queen's eyes still lingered on him. Approval? Curiosity? Or perhaps the realization that this human could be the key to the survival of her dynasty. Whatever it was, Jace did not flinch. He was a human. He adapted. He survived. And he would continue to protect the princess no matter the cost. For on Veralia, humans were rare, and their courage was legendary, and Captain Jace Mallory was about to show that legend was only the beginning. Weeks had passed since Captain Jace Mallory had thwarted the hidden threat in the palace. Each day brought new challenges, lessons, and tests, but nothing compared to the tension building toward the grand trial of loyalty. The trial was an ancient Varelian tradition, held once every generation to confirm the devotion of anyone who sought to serve the royal family. Its purpose was simple: reveal the true character of the protector, the counselor, or the advisor. For humans, it was a challenge like no other. Jace stood in the courtyard of the palace, watching the twin suns of Varelia rise over the floating gardens. The scent of alien flowers filled the air, and the soft hum of the palace energy systems reminded him that everything here was advanced beyond human imagination. Princess Lyris approached quietly, her silver eyes studying him. "Today is the day," she said softly. "The Queen will judge your loyalty. This trial is not just about bravery, it is about heart, mind, and honor." Jace adjusted his uniform, his mind already racing through possibilities. "I'm ready," he said, though a flicker of uncertainty passed through him. Humans were bold, but this was alien tradition, filled with codes and rituals he barely understood. "I've faced worse than tests. I can handle this," she smiled faintly. "You always surprise me, Captain. That is why you survive here." The council chamber was transformed for the trial. Hundreds of dignitaries, advisors, and elite guards filled the room. At the center stood the Queen, her posture regal, her eyes sharp. She looked at Jace with an intensity that would have unnerved most humans. He did not flinch. "Captain Mallory," the Queen said, her voice carrying across the chamber, "you have served this palace, this princess, and this people with courage and skill. Yet today you must prove that your loyalty is true. This trial is not a game, nor is it punishment. It is a measure of honor." Jace nodded, standing straight. "I understand, Your Majesty." The first part of the trial was a test of wisdom and diplomacy. A group of alien merchants and nobles had arrived with a heated dispute that threatened the stability of trade and alliances. They spoke in complex language and gestures, their arguments overlapping. Jace analyzed the situation carefully. He did not rely on force. Instead, he observed patterns, noticed subtle cues in tone and movement, and formulated a solution that respected alien customs while balancing fairness. Slowly, he mediated the dispute. Aliens who had been shouting, gesturing, and threatening one another began to nod in agreement. By the end, the conflict was resolved peacefully. The Queen's eyes flickered with interest. She had expected humans to rely on direct action, not subtle negotiation. "Humans think differently," she murmured to herself. Perhaps too differently, yet effectively. Next came a test of courage and action. A simulated invasion unfolded in the chamber. Holographic enemy ships attacked the palace, and holographic soldiers demanded leadership. Jace sprang into action, directing palace guards, positioning defenses, and countering attacks with ingenuity. Unlike alien soldiers who followed precise protocols, humans could improvise. Jace adapted instantly, using every advantage of the palace's layout, the guards' abilities, and his own experience. The holographic invasion was neutralized, and Jace had not only survived, it was clear to everyone watching that he was a masterful strategist. The third part of the trial was the most personal. The Queen summoned Princess Lyris. "Captain," she said, "the greatest loyalty is proven when the heart and duty align. You will face a choice: protect what you love or obey what is commanded." Jace's chest tightened. He had anticipated challenges, but this was different. The holographic simulation presented a scenario where the princess appeared to be in danger, while the palace and its advisors required his obedience to prevent a fake catastrophe. It was a test of his priorities. Who mattered most, his personal bond with Lyris or his duty to the palace? Without hesitation, Jace acted. He protected the projection of Princess Lyris, maneuvering to neutralize threats while minimizing collateral damage. Unlike the aliens, he did not hesitate, second-guess, or follow rigid rules. He acted with courage, foresight, and above all, loyalty. The holographic simulation ended. Silence filled the chamber. Even the Queen's advisors, many of whom had doubted him, were speechless. The Queen herself did not speak for a moment, her gaze fixed on him. "You chose wisely," she finally said. "You acted not for glory, not for reward, but because it was right. This is loyalty beyond blood, Captain Mallory. You have shown courage, intellect, and honor. You have proven that a human can be more than expected, more than legend." Jace exhaled slowly, relief and exhaustion mingling in his chest. He had survived battles, hidden threats, and tests of intellect. But this trial had been different. It was not about skill alone. It was about heart, and he had proven his. Princess Lyris approached him, her hand brushing his shoulder. "You did it," she said softly. "You've shown the Queen, and everyone here, that humans can be trusted with more than life. They can be trusted with honor." Jace looked at her and smiled faintly. "I only did what anyone should do. I protect those who cannot protect themselves. That's what humans do." The Queen stood, her presence commanding all attention. "Captain Mallory," she said, her voice calm but firm. "You have completed the grand trial of loyalty. Your actions have changed the perception of humans in this palace. You have earned respect, honor, and recognition. Yet your place here is still not fully decided. That choice remains with you." Jace's brow furrowed. "What choice, Your Majesty?" "You may return to your people free of obligations, or you may remain here as the protector of my daughter, as a guide, as a trusted human among Varelians. The decision is yours." He paused, thinking. Humans valued freedom. But he had already formed a bond with Princess Lyris in the palace. He had seen the potential for humans to help, teach, and inspire even alien civilizations. "I will stay," he said finally. "Not because I have to, not for reward, but because it matters. Protecting her, and this palace, is worth everything." The Queen's eyes softened slightly, a rare expression for the ruler.
"Very well.
Then it is decided. Captain Jace Mallory will remain among us, a human of honor, courage, and loyalty. Let this day be remembered as the day the palace learned that humans are capable of greatness beyond expectation." The chamber erupted in quiet applause, dignified yet filled with respect. Even the advisors who had doubted him stepped forward, bowing in recognition of his achievements. Princess Lyris smiled, her eyes reflecting pride and admiration. "You've done more than survive trials, Captain. You've earned a place here not just by strength but by heart, and that is rare even among humans." Jace felt a strange warmth in his chest. For all the battles he had fought, for all the blood spilled and dangers faced, this recognition, this acceptance, was something he had never experienced. Humans were known for bravery, but this was more than bravery. This was trust, respect, and honor from an alien civilization. That night, as the palace quieted, and the twin suns set behind the floating gardens, Jace and Lyris walked together along the balcony overlooking the oceans below. "You know," she said softly, "I never thought humans could do what you've done. Not just fight, not just survive, but think, adapt, and care beyond themselves." Jace chuckled faintly. "We have our ways. Not always perfect, not always understood, but we try. And sometimes, it's enough to make a difference." Lyris looked at him, a quiet understanding passing between them. "It's more than enough. You've shown the Queen. You've shown me that humans are remarkable." Jace nodded, the hum of the palace energy systems echoing in the background. He had passed the Queen's trial, proven his worth, and earned a place in the palace. Yet he knew that the galaxy was vast, that dangers were endless, and that his journey was far from over. For humans thrived not just in battle, not just in cunning, but in loyalty, courage, and heart. And Jace Mallory was living proof that even in a world of aliens and ancient traditions, humans could rise above expectations. As night fell over Virelia, the palace lights reflected in the oceans below, and Jace felt a quiet resolve settle in his chest. He had proven his loyalty, his courage, and his ingenuity. But he also knew that more challenges awaited. The night after the grand trial felt peaceful, but deep in the dark corners of the galaxy, peace never lasted long. Captain Jace Mallory stood on the palace balcony, looking at the alien stars above. The skies of Virelia were filled with colors, blue clouds, silver dust, and bright twin moons. It was beautiful, and yet his instincts told him something was wrong. Princess Lyris walked beside him quietly. "You're still awake," she said softly. "Couldn't sleep," Jace replied. "Something feels off." Like the calm before a storm. Before Lyris could answer, a soft alarm echoed through the palace. It wasn't the normal alarm. It was deeper, sharper, one that meant real danger. Lyris's eyes widened. "That's the high alert code. Only the Queen can activate it." Jace's heart started to race. Then something big is happening. Moments later, they both ran to the royal command chamber. The Queen stood in the center, surrounded by her advisors and glowing holograms of the outer defense network. The holograms showed hundreds of red dots, Enemy ships moving toward the planet. It's them, one of the generals said grimly. The Kravthal Dominion. They're demanding Virelia's surrender. The Queen's voice was steady. And if we do not, they will burn the planet, Your Majesty. Jace stepped forward. How many ships? 200 confirmed warships, the general replied. Our defense fleet has only 50 ready. Lyris looked at Jace, her expression filled with worry. We can't fight them alone. Jace's voice was calm but firm. Then don't fight alone. Let me help. The Queen turned her gaze to him, thoughtful. You've proven loyalty, Captain Mallory. But this is not a trial. This is war. Jace straightened his shoulders. I've fought wars before, Your Majesty. And humans don't run when danger comes. We find a way to win. For a long moment, the Queen said nothing. Then with a nod, she gave her command. Then do what you must, human. The fate of my people may rest with you. The battle plan. Jace spent hours studying the alien fleet's movement. The Kravthal ships were large, strong, and heavily armed, but slow and predictable. Virelia's ships were faster but fragile. He saw patterns, weak points, and built a plan only a human could think of. He divided the fleet into small strike teams, ordered them to use stealth, deception, and hit-and-run tactics. Humans call it guerrilla warfare, he explained. You don't fight the enemy's strength. You make them chase shadows until they make mistakes. The alien commanders were unsure, but Lyris trusted him completely. Do what you think is best, Jace, she said. We'll follow your lead. Jace nodded, eyes focused on the star map. Then let's make them regret coming here. The invasion begins hours later. The dark of space lit up. The Kravthal fleet emerged from hyperspace like a wall of fire. Massive warships, black as void, armed with plasma cannons and shield generators, filled the sky. The alien admiral's voice boomed through the comms. Virelia, surrender your queen and the princess. Your world is surrounded. The Queen's voice answered with calm authority. Virelia kneels to no one. That was the signal. Jace's fleet moved. Small groups of ships darted out from the planet's orbit, attacking from different directions. They hit supply ships, communication relays, and shield generators, then vanished before the enemy could respond. The Kravthal ships tried to regroup, but Jace had already predicted their movement. They're big, slow, and proud, he said to the Virelian commanders. We'll use that against them. Using asteroid belts and ion clouds for cover, Jace's units ambushed one fleet after another. Explosions lit up the dark. Even the alien generals started to realize this human was fighting like no one they had ever seen. Princess Lyris commanded one of the smaller defense units. Captain, your plan is working, she said through the comms. We're taking out their wings one by one. Jace's voice came through, calm but determined. Don't get overconfident. The Admiral's going to strike back hard. And he was right. Moments later, the Kravthal flagship, a giant dreadnought called Devourer of Suns, appeared from hyperspace. It fired a weapon so powerful that half the Virelian defense grid went dark. They're targeting the palace, one officer shouted. Not on my watch, Jace growled. The final stand. Jace ordered all ships to fall back to protect the capital. The palace shield flickered as massive energy blasts hit the planet. The ground trembled, towers cracked, and alarms screamed. The Queen stood tall in the command chamber, refusing to leave. If my world falls, I fall with it. Lyris grabbed her mother's hand. We're not going to fall. Jace won't let that happen. Jace's ship, the human corvette Valiant, broke through the atmosphere, engines roaring. He linked with the palace defense grid manually. Captain Mallory, the palace technician shouted, you're linking a human system with ours. It might overload. Then we overload together, Jace replied. If they want the palace, they'll have to go through me. The Devourer of Suns descended from orbit, firing again. Jace activated every cannon, shield, and missile launcher available. The skies turned into fire. For hours, the battle raged. The palace shook, cities burned, but the humans and Virelians fought side by side. Jace's ship was heavily damaged, panels smoking, alarms blaring, but he didn't stop. Lyris, he shouted through the comms. They're aiming at your sector. Evacuate now. I'm not leaving, she shouted back. If you're fighting, I'm staying. He smiled despite the chaos. You really are stubborn. Then something changed. The enemy dreadnought began to charge its main weapon again. One more shot, and Virelia would be destroyed. Jace made a decision. He transferred full control of his ship to manual and pushed it forward straight toward the enemy. Captain Mallory, Lyris screamed through the comms. "What are you doing?" "Finishing this," he said quietly. "Tell your mother." I kept my promise. Jason, no. But it was too late. The Valiant accelerated, engines burning brighter than ever before. Jace locked the ship on a collision course with the enemy dreadnought's weapon core. The Krafthal admiral laughed. "A single human ship? You think that can stop the Valiant hit the dreadnought?" The explosion was blinding. A shockwave spread across orbit, tearing apart the Krafthal flagship and disabling half their fleet in seconds. The remaining enemy ships fled in chaos. The skies of Virelia cleared. The war was over. After the fire silence fell over the palace, the queen, the guards, the soldiers, everyone stared at the sky where the human ship had vanished. Princess Lyris fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face.
"He did it," she whispered.
"He saved us." The queen placed a hand on her shoulder. "He did more than save us. He reminded the stars what courage truly means." For days, the palace searched the wreckage. Many believed Captain Jace Mallory had died in the explosion. But on the 7th day, a Virelian rescue pod was found drifting in orbit. Inside, unconscious but alive, was the human captain. When he woke, Lyris was there. "You crazy human," she said softly, tears still in her eyes. "You really tried to fight a dreadnought by yourself?" Jace smiled weakly. "Well, it worked, didn't it?" She laughed through her tears. "The queen thought you were gone." "I don't die that easily," he said. The queen herself entered the chamber. For the first time, she didn't speak as a ruler, but as a mother. "Captain Mallory," she said softly, "you gave your blood once for my daughter. Now you've given your life strength for my world. You have done what even our greatest heroes could not." Jace bowed his head weakly. "Just doing my job, Your Majesty." She smiled faintly. "You are more than a soldier now. You are family." Epilogue. The legend of the human months later, peace returned to Virelia. The queen rebuilt the capital. The people honored Jace Mallory as a hero. Statues were raised of him and the princess standing side by side, symbols of unity between species. Jace was offered every reward possible: titles, lands, even command of the royal fleet. But he refused them all. "I'm just a man," he said. "I didn't fight for power. I fought for what was right." Lyris walked beside him as they watched the sunset over the ocean. "You could have left, you know. Gone back to Earth." Jace smiled softly. "And miss all this." "Not a chance," she laughed gently. "The queen says she won't release you now." Jace raised an eyebrow. "So I'm a prisoner?" "Maybe," she said playfully. "A very honored one." He looked out at the horizon, his heart peaceful for the first time in years. "Then it's the best prison I've ever had." The suns of Virelia set slowly, painting the skies gold. And somewhere in the stars, tales began to spread. Of a lone human who defied an empire, who protected an alien princess, and who taught a galaxy what loyalty, courage, and heart truly meant. The aliens called him the blood-bound guardian. But humanity called him something simpler: a true human being,